That's the last time that rains of that magnitude fell on Egypt, and it's why we cannot sensibly accept the insistence of Egyptologists that the Sphinx is just 4,500 years old. The ancient Egyptians were there, but I believe they found the Sphinx already created and already heavily eroded, and that they then recarved its head into the head of a pharaoh.
Have you ever stood in front of the Great Sphinx of Giza, marveling at its grandeur and pondering over its mysterious past? This iconic monument, shrouded in enigma, continues to fascinate us, historians and archaeologists alike. Its origins, the masterminds behind its creation, and the significant erosion it has witnessed over the millennia spark intense debate and study, adding layers to its mystique. Let's dive into the most popular belief first. The Sphinx and Pharaoh Khafre, a ruler from Egypt's Old Kingdom's 4th dynasty, are thought to be connected. Why? Well, the Sphinx sits proudly on the Giza plateau, right in front of Khafre's pyramid, hinting at a special bond between the two. Some even say the Sphinx's face bears a resemblance to statues of Khafre, further tying the monument to him. It's like the Sphinx is silently guarding Khafre's final resting place. Plus, the Sphinx and its surrounding structures, including 2 limestone quarries, seem to be part of a grand design, all of which support the pyramid complex of Khafre, suggesting it was all built in his era. But here's where it gets interesting. Not everyone is on board with this theory. Some researchers think the Sphinx is much older than Khafre's time. They point to the erosion patterns on the Sphinx, its astronomical alignments, and various ancient texts to back up their claims. There's even a theory suggesting that the Sphinx originally had the head of a lion and was later carved into the pharaoh's likeness. Imagine that. The twist in the tale. There's no direct evidence like inscriptions or records, explicitly stating when the Sphinx was built or for what purpose. This glaring absence of concrete proof fuels alternative theories about the Sphinx's true age and origins, with some suggesting it might date back to a time long before Pharaoh Khafre's reign. So what do you think? Was the Sphinx keeping watch over Khafre's pyramid, or does its stoic gaze reach back to an even more ancient past? So, have you ever heard about the big debate over the Sphinx's erosion? It's a fascinating topic that's been causing quite a stir among historians and geologists. On one side of the argument, we've got the traditional view that says, hey, the Sphinx is in the desert, so the erosion must be due to wind and sand, right? It makes sense at first glance because, well, deserts are full of wind-blown sand. But then, in the 1990s, along comes geologist Robert M. Schoch, who throws a curveball into the mix. He takes a good look at the patterns of erosion on the Sphinx and its surrounding walls and says, wait a minute, this looks more like water erosion to me. This isn't just a minor detail, it's a game changer. If Schoch is right and it's mainly water that carved its way through the Sphinx, we might have to push its construction date way back, possibly to between 5000 BCE and 7000 BCE. That's a time when the area had a lot more rain, which is a far cry from its current desert climate. This water erosion theory isn't just about rewriting the Sphinx's birthday. It could mean we've got the timeline for the whole of Egyptian civilization a bit wrong. The last time it rained cats and dogs, or should I say cats and sphinxes, in the Giza region was well before 3000 BCE, long before the era we typically associate with the Sphinx's construction. Now, as you can imagine, not everyone's on board with this water erosion theory. Critics point out that the limestone around the Giza plateau isn't all the same type of rock. Some of it's softer, some of it's harder, and that can lead to different erosion patterns that might look like water damage, but are actually caused by wind and sand. They also mention that the Sphinx's spot, being somewhat sheltered, might have kept it safe from the kind of downpours that would cause this kind of erosion. Have you ever heard about the Hall of Records, supposedly hidden beneath the Great Sphinx of Giza? It's a tale that sounds like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie, but it actually comes from the psychic readings of Edgar Cayce in the early 20th century. He claimed that the Sphinx wasn't just an ancient Egyptian monument, but a gateway to a hidden library left by the survivors of Atlantis. Imagine that, a secret hall buried under the sand, filled with the records of a lost civilization, including their history, their knowledge, and even the true purpose behind the majestic pyramids of Giza. Despite sounding like a fantasy, this theory has tickled the fancy of adventurers and researchers for decades. It's led to all sorts of expeditions around the Sphinx, with folks using modern technology like ground-penetrating radar and seismic testing to peek underneath its surface. They're on the hunt for any sign of these mythical chambers or passageways that Casey talked about. And while they've found a few intriguing anomalies, the definitive proof of a Hall of Records remains elusive. Of course, not everyone's on board with this idea. Most mainstream scholars and archaeologists are pretty skeptical, to say the least. They point out that there's no real evidence to back up Casey's claims, which after all came from psychic visions, not archaeological digs. But that hasn't stopped the Egyptian authorities from letting researchers take a closer look at what lies beneath the Sphinx, if only to satisfy the curiosity of the public and perhaps put some of these theories to rest. And let's not underestimate the impact this story has had beyond the academic world. The Hall of Records has inspired countless books, documentaries, and even fiction, captivating audiences with the allure of ancient mysteries and the possibility of discovering hidden knowledge. Ever wondered why the Sphinx, one of Egypt's most mysterious monuments, stares so intently towards the eastern horizon? Well, it's all about its alignment with the rising sun, which is no mere coincidence. This eastward gaze has deep astronomical and religious significance, tying the Sphinx to the sun god Ra. You see, during the equinoxes, the sun rises directly in front of the Sphinx, symbolizing resurrection and rebirth, themes that were pretty big deals in ancient Egyptian religion. This alignment isn't just for show. It reflects the ancient Egyptians' incredible grasp of astronomy and their knack for weaving this knowledge into their architecture. It's like they were using the Sphinx to bookmark important solar events, which played a huge role in their religious ceremonies and state rituals. Now let's talk about the Sphinx's missing nose, a mystery that sparked countless tales and theories over the years. Despite the popular myth that blames Napoleon's troops for its disappearance, historical sketches show the nose was gone long before Napoleon's time. So what happened to it? Well, it seems more likely that the nose was intentionally removed, a common practice during periods of religious or political turmoil aimed at erasing the power or memory of certain figures. The marks where the nose used to be suggest it was chiseled off on purpose, although who did it and what tools they used remains a bit of a mystery. This act of removing the nose fits into a larger pattern in ancient Egyptian history, where defacing statues was a way to undermine the legacy of previous rulers or deities.